For me, if what I believe is a hindrance in any way to my growth, my ability to not even just be a good person, but to be functional in all of my relationships, be that in my marriage, as a parent, with my friends, if it limits my capacity for empathy and compassion, if it puts me and what I think on a pedestal over, this person over here, and if it in any way warps or misunderstands or even twists God's character into something that is self-serving, for me, that's problematic. Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today is Friday. I am planning to kind of do some self-care stuff today. I wanted to get an earlier start and do my hair and makeup before I left the house, but that didn't happen. So I have my hat on and my mask. I'm going to get a pedicure, and then I'm gonna do something to myself and then do a little shopping. Some of Jack's clients are filming and recording some podcast stuff today, so we might stop over there a little bit later. So yeah, it should be hopefully a productive but good day. Nap time? You ready for a nap? So I'm ready. It's taken me a decent amount of time just because I've been going slow. But now I gotta get Judah ready and then we can get out. Yeah. Judah, say hi, Daddy. Hi, Jack.
Huh?
Hi.
Hi. How you doing?
So we are at Westfield Century City in Century City. Maybe that was obvious. And we're about to head up. Trying to get some shopping in before it closes. So wish me luck. So we made it back home. I would say that it was a successful trip. I did actually buy some things, so and I stayed within budget, all good. Judah, what you doing? You eating a quesadilla? He's so silly. So yeah, really quickly, I wanted to talk a little bit about just why believing matters, and not just believing in general, but why what you believe matters. I posted videos about, just creating a church with my family and why we walked away from traditional religious organizations and all of that stuff. And a few different people kind of like asked me, just like why? Like, what difference does it make? What difference does it make what you call yourself? What difference does it make, what you believe, if what you believe is not, or if that particular thing is not salvific in that it doesn't dictate whether or not you are saved, if it doesn't dictate whether or not you're a good person or anything like that. And I think it's a fair question. And it's something that I wanted to address before I kind of delve into the other topics that I want to talk about. And those topics being the reason why why I went down this road in the first place. Not just sharing what I believe, but sharing the thought process behind why I believe the way that I do, and how I interpret and process information. Because I think a lot of times we think about things, but we don't necessarily pay enough attention to how we're thinking about things. And just like our implicit biases, the things that are happening in our subconscious mind, that impact how we perceive information or perceive certain situations, how we perceive other people. And just like not really accounting for that stuff, all the stuff that's happening in the background, as your mind is working to draw its conclusions and to think about certain things. And so, like I said, I just want to take a second to talk about why all that stuff matters. I am a firm believer that God, everything that any of us believes about God, everything that any of us believes, period, I should say, ultimately boils down to who we say God is. If you don't believe in God, then that impacts your worldview. If you do believe in God, but you believe in God as just like a higher power, who's not necessarily invested in everything that happens on earth or in our lives, then that impacts your worldview. If you believe that God is a part of a Trinity and Jesus is the Son and there's a Holy Spirit, then that impacts your worldview. And I think that anything that fundamentally shapes how we live our lives, how we view the world and the people around us, it matters. For example, I was in a room on Clubhouse, this was maybe a month or two ago, and there was a religious professor, or a professor of religion, two of them actually, I think, talking about religion and politics. And I don't remember exactly what question I asked, but the explanation I received was essentially that religion is something that is inextricably intertwined with politics. What does that mean? Or how is that the case? Because for me, going in, I thought that religion and politics were things that could be two separate things, right? Like your religious belief should not become a political thing. However, they were talking about religion as being something that, again, shapes your worldview. And religion informs questions like, who is my neighbor? What should individual rights look like? What should the government be involved in versus what should be a matter of conscience left to the individual to decide. What you believe, your religion, and and how you think about things, your worldview. It impacts something like your political views. Your political views are going to be based on, your worldview and your perspective and how you interact with other people and what you think your responsibilities are to the next person, or what you don't think your responsibilities to the next person are. And so just even in something like that, like where for me, I felt like religion and politics should be should be two things that are separate. The reality is that they're not. Your religious beliefs impact everything. So all that being said, for me, if what I believe is a hindrance in any way to my growth, my ability to not even just be a good person, but to be functional in all of my relationships, be that in my marriage, as a parent, with my friends, if it limits my capacity for empathy and compassion, if it puts me and what I think on a pedestal over, this person over here, and if it in any way warps or misunderstands or even twists God's character into something that is self-serving, for me, that's problematic. Because whether I'm even conscious and aware of this or not, it is impacting my worldview, which is subsequently impacting every other aspect of my life. And I think it's very difficult to know for sure just how much of our day-to-day lives and what we think and how we view things and what we're willing to even hold ourselves accountable for is impacted by, the smallest little things, the smallest little beliefs, the smallest little assumptions, the smallest little biases, or the smallest little things that we're relying on to be true. It can seem like it's a very little thing, like you drop a little tiny pebble in a big lake, and that pebble, seems really small and insignificant, but the ripple effect is bigger and bigger and bigger, and it ultimately, is however many times bigger than was the initial pebble that you dropped into the water. And so for me, I just think it's really important to be intentional about anything that is shaping my worldview. And I get it, some people are comfortable where they're at and they don't feel like they need to change, or they need to think that deeply about it, or, they need to be that intentional about it, because it's not that important in the grand scheme of things. And if that's where you're at, then that's where you're at. But for me, I am not comfortable with becoming too comfortable in what I think I know, simply because as I have learned and as I have grown, I've come to understand just how much it is that I don't know. The more I learn, the more I realize just how much I don't know. And beyond the things that I know that I don't know, there's a whole vast number of things that I don't know that I don't know. And there's, in some ways, no possible way for me to ever know those things. And so because I'm so limited, because there is so much that is beyond me, and just in this life, there's so much that I don't have control over. I don't know, the idea of not being as intentional as I possibly can be about the things that I do have absolute control over, or if not absolute, I do have some level of control over, that the idea of that actually stresses me out a little bit. And so, for the people who are comfortable, no judgment. I'm glad that you are good where you're at. But for people who, just kind of understand their limitations and want to do the best that they can to cover their bases as well as they possibly can, in trying to be the best version of themselves that they can become, I think it does matter. I think it absolutely matters. And my goal moving forward is to be able to share, not just what I have learned and what I believe, but my process. Because I think that is often where I lose people too, because I can talk about the conclusions or talk about the end game, but people kind of don't necessarily see the process by which I have arrived at the end game. And it can be difficult to make sense of the end game if you don't know how we ended up there. And so my goal moving forward is to be able to, teach and share information. Judah just ran out of juice and he's not happy. But my goal is to be able to teach and share information, but to also, help people be more intentional about how they think and how they process information, so that they can be better equipped to figure out what they believe for themselves. And so, that's the short version, or short-ish version, of what you believe matters. And I'm excited to share my journey with you, and I'm hoping and looking forward to people being willing to share their journeys with me and with each other, because you can only solve as much of a problem as you can see of it. And I think that all of these different, you hear that? You want some mango juice? But you can only solve as much of a problem as you can see of it, and you need as much perspective as you can possibly get from as many people as you can get that perspective from, to be able to see the bigger picture, or have at least some idea of the bigger picture, because like I said, we're all limited, but multiple viewpoints and perspectives, I think, in the realm of spirituality, I think is better than just one. So that is all I have for today. But stay tuned to my channel for future content, just about thinking, processing, fact versus opinion, personal accountability, insecurity versus security, all that stuff and all of its derivatives. So if you like this video, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I will see y'all next time. Bye.